Welcome to the Growth Whisperers podcast, where everything we talk about is related to helping companies and their CEOs build enduring, great teams. I'm Brad Giles, and I'm joined today with Kevin Lawrence. How are you today, Kevin?
I'm doing great, Brad. It's great to be here. I'm really enjoying getting the chance to do this podcast together. It's a great chance for us to put our thoughts together and have a real incentive or good reason for us to connect and share our ideas.
So am I. I was looking forward to today. So what have we got on today?
Well, today we're going to start off by talking about a very important subject, and one that I think all of our listeners will want to listen to, and it's about underwear and innovation in the underwear space. You don't want to miss it. And then we're going to talk about stacking the deck with A players, and there's a great opportunity to build notably stronger teams. We'll talk about why and just what we've seen in the past and which we're actually seeing right now. And we'll actually tie it into your advisors too, not just your internal team. So we'll talk about that. And again, just sharing the best insights that we have. And I'm sure we'll have some different opinions on a few of those things too.
I'm sure we will, and I look forward to it. So let's get straight into it. So underwear, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
So
do tell.
Yeah. So this came about, I'm reading a book called 9 Lies About Work from Marcus Buckingham. Fantastic book. And in it, he talks about a company called MeUndies. And MeUndies is an example where I've completely forgotten, Kevin.
The underwear was so interesting. You got lost in the word underwear, right?
I did.
Jerry Maguire, you had me at hello. So we know we've got you at underwear.
Yes. No. It was a subscription underwear model. That's what it was.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. And so the subscription,
different cuts for different butts, apparently, is their slogan. It is. I just pulled it. Different cuts for different butts. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No. And so the reason that I stopped, I thought, was it actually Marcus Buckingham that I read? Because I'm reading about 3 or 4 books at the moment. I'll confirm that later on. But let's go back to MeUndies. So
he deserves some credit too. He's a great author. So if it wasn't him, he deserves a shout out anyways.
Yeah. So the point is, it was fascinating because underwear is not something that you would think about as a subscription model. Typically, you would buy underwear in packs or you'd buy it individually. But let's be fair, underwear is something that wears out because it gets washed regularly and people's tastes change. And so MeUndies have a subscription model which is driving their profit per X. And profit per X, meaning the single economic denominator for your business. What's the single thing that you're trying to pursue? So it's more expensive to buy a single pair of MeUndies than it is to buy it under subscription. And you might not think about that, but every month they prompt you and ask you, would you like to have this color or that pattern, or what kind of undies would you like? And then they'll send them out to you, and you pay a low fee per month. So
I just checked. So from Canada here, I picked the classic men's trunk, and it's $24 a pair if you want one, which is comparable to kind of higher end, similar comparable companies. But get monthly and save 33%. Get them for $16. It's a notable discount to kind of get your attention. That's very interesting.
Because all of the decisions that they're making in the company are driving them to get more subscribers. And you wouldn't think about that as an underwear company. It's not the first thing that you'd think about. But in terms of the value of their company, I mean, I've read that subscription model businesses are based on a multiple of revenue, whereas traditional businesses are based on a multiple, their valuation of profit.
Yes, subscription businesses have dramatically higher valuations in most industries because it's a predictable revenue, and the investors or purchasers feel more confident with that.
Yeah. And so if they can do it with underwear, something as benign or unusual as underwear, what can be done with other businesses? It's really interesting to think, when you get your profit per X right, when you get that single economic denominator that helps you to make all of the decisions in your business right, how does that potentially change the value of your business or the direction in which you go?
It's true. It's right. I'm just looking at the site here, Brad, and I went and put the undies in my cart, and then it asked me if I wanted to get a matching handkerchief for my dog. And so you can get, and your underwear can match what your dog has around its neck. So it's very interesting, and and they're offering all kinds of complimentary t-shirts and socks and everything else. But they've taken a very simple model and made a compelling offer, i.e., notably lower price. And my brain goes, well, for $16 a month, that could probably work really well. Interesting.
And you probably buy more underwear than you think when you aggregate it out over a year, and then you think, well, I probably do buy 12 pairs a year. And then suddenly you've got people who like fun patterns or they want to do something different and it's compelling to them.
Yeah.
It's an interesting take on a traditional model.
Yeah, very interesting. Love it. That's what I love about the entrepreneur. And if we look in these interesting times that we're in, we're going to see entrepreneurs innovating like that all over the place. People coming up with ideas to service our needs differently. Unfortunately, in the case of many of these, to the detriment of traditional retail. It's just a further nails in the coffin of at least the transactional retail, where there's not an entertainment component or or serious experience component. It's fascinating.
Well, you've got to have a relationship with the decision maker in some form. Who is the decision maker that is going to fork money out of their wallet or out of their P&L? Who's that decision maker? You've got to have a relationship with them. And the more that these types of companies are coming through, the more the customers are valuing it as well. Because rather than going to the local, Target or wherever they might get them, they've got this relationship at an affordable price.
And there's some sort of a fun and novelty factor to it as well that's interesting. I mean, in normal times, lots of people love getting mail and getting packages. I remember as a kid, I used to be excited whenever I would get something in the mail. Even today, boxes don't come from Amazon as much these days because they're backlogged. But it's interesting. And no matter what, it may or may not work for a bunch of other industries, but it's always worth trying. And the great thing is, in this world of digital commerce, you can get online and test different ads and different offerings and get an idea of things, if things are going to work really quickly, and that's the piece that people are going to have to master. It's great to have this theory about what you want to do, this hypothesis. I was talking with a CEO today in an industrial business, and they were talking about, for the retail quasi-retail component of what they do, how do they digitize it and make it so that there's much less human interaction in the sales process, just for cost and efficiency. And, we talked about it. Another CEO I was talking to on Saturday has already done that to their business in the last 4 weeks, dramatically changed their business model. Unfortunately, they had to change a few people with it because some people just couldn't move. They were so stuck on the old way. But the idea, though, is to find ways you can test these theories and experiment. Don't think it's a brilliant idea and go all in on them. So, great example, Brad. Well, let's if you had something else, I was thinking we should move on to the next thing. Anything else you wanted to add on to that?
No, just that businesses are becoming more leaner. That's your point. They're becoming more leaner, and they're trying to find a way to have a higher percentage of top employees, of top customers, and to overall they're using this as an opportunity in a lot of cases to become leaner. But that really leads on to our next point. What can you do about that, or what can CEOs and leadership teams do about that now? Are there any opportunities around particularly employees?
Yes. And before we move, there is something else you made me think there, Brad, too, is that people always want to get leaner, but when you're forced to, there's much more creativity, right? And the key, I think, for people, what I'm seeing with my clients is that they're looking at other people who have already done things to become much leaner. And in economies like this, more scalable, able to scale up and scale down. So, one CEO that we know very well took their whole call center and virtualized it.
Mm.
right? Now that's not new for some people. Some people already do that, but they've got great KPIs. They know who's productive. They know who's not. And it works incredibly well because they can scale up, scale down. And now this opens up a whole new world of opportunity that I can't really talk about. But because they're so much more efficient, and we're having a conversation of 95% of their competition could never do that. And that
Yeah.
opens up even more opportunity because you need to be young and dynamic and have someone who comes from that kind of thinking. And when you've got a business that the typical business in their space has been around 30 years, and they often kind of get stuck in their own success. So for
Yeah.
them, it's a double opportunity. Not only is their business better, but their
Mm.
competitors are likely not going to be able to pivot at the same time. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead. Go ahead, Rod.
The agile survive. Let's move on.
Yes.
So interesting. Our next topic is around A players. So let's begin. What's an A player?
A is like awesome. You know what I when I when I talk about it, we look at a quadrant. And they just in our world, and in my oxygen, your oxygen mask first, the book I wrote most recently, we talk about as being someone who fits your culture
Yeah.
and consistently delivers incredible results. And that's a high standard. People that can do both. So
Yeah.
you would trust them alone with your children, and you can count on them to get the job done without having to worry about it. That's a special human. And one of the ways I look at it is that they are just delightful to work with. Like you've come away just like I've got Janice on my team that's been working with me for almost 18 years. She constantly just impresses the heck out of me 18 years later. One, she's been able to work with me all that time. And that's something special. But and
Yeah.
all the companies we work with, they're so obvious when you start to look. So
Yeah.
and we look at bees. Bees as being they fit the culture. Like you would trust them with your kids. And they're good people. They just don't have that ability to get it across the finish line consistently, as expected, on time.
Yeah.
And they're more work. You have to manage them. And then we look
Yeah.
kind of below those, I call toxic A's. And that's the high performing people who deliver the goods, but they're jerks. They're
Yeah.
in the wrong company and they belong somewhere else. And you wouldn't leave them alone with your kids or your grandmother or whatever it happens to be.
And no one really wants to work alongside them.
No, because it's painful.
Yeah.
Now, they often do get excellent results. Like we had a company work with. They had one of their truck drivers that was a toxic A. Cleanest truck, best maintained truck, no accidents, like everything, except for they got about 2 calls a week about his driving and how he cut people off and was aggressive on the road, like 2 a week because they had their name across the trailers.
Yeah.
But he was amazing and not consistent with the culture.
Yeah.
And so we know those ones, we kind of wish they would quit. And, and you and I, we spend a lot of time helping people to figure out how to manage them because they're hard. Either you got to shape them up, help them to step up or get up. But let's not talk about those ones. Let's talk about
Yeah.
the gems, the diamonds, we call the aces.
So they're A's. They're, just to repeat that for our listeners, they're high on core values. They align. They're very, very similar belief sets and
Yep.
values than the leadership team, A. And B, they're very productive in their roles. So that's the definition of an A. And so what's happening in the market now that causes you and I to talk about this?
Mm-hmm.
What is the real opportunity? Because this is perhaps a counter view. This is a lot of people are thinking we've got to do a lot of furloughing, we've got to cut costs, we've got to reduce our staffing, our new hiring as much as possible. But there's a bit of a different perspective here.
Yeah, there is. And I think it's the right time to be absolutely hiring the rock stars, these A players or the aces. And generally these people are it's almost like the most prime pieces of real estate in any city. They don't come up for sale very often, and they don't come onto the market. They come through, deals in back rooms or through friends and networks. They don't get listed they get,
Mm.
deals get done generally. So, and the same thing with top talent. They generally aren't ever available. They're rarely available in the market, and they're not applying to jobs online
Yeah.
because they are generally pulled away from where they are because someone asks them to leave or gives them an opportunity because they're so amazing. And now, there's a number of opportunities, and we got to be careful because there's a bit of myth around some of this, but there's the opportunity of some of them are in divisions that are closed. Like,
Yep.
companies will lay these people off last. These are the prized jewels. They will be the last person or the last people standing in a company. But when you close a whole division, you have no choice. But if it's a general round of layoffs in the company, be careful because people say, oh, there's tons of A players in the market. I don't think that's true. Previously, we've been through downturns in other economies. We hold them like crazy, but there will be a few. But
They're the
more
last
than that,
person.
go ahead.
They're the last person you're going to get rid of. Go on.
Yeah, they are. And unless you have to, and I look at in some of our clients, we have let go of a couple of A players. I'm thinking of one guy, I don't want to say his name, but because his function was not going to be needed for a few years, he was
Mhm.
laid off, and he was an A or an A plus. But that's like, 1 in 50, right? I mean
Yeah.
more. But then there's the other opportunity of the ones that are still at their companies. But we can talk about that next. Go ahead, Brad. You have some thoughts.
Well,
What are you thinking?
I think it's really important just to reinforce that point that when we place a job advert, it's the A players are probably not going to apply for it because every time an A player shifts jobs, they've probably been tapped on the shoulder either by a colleague or former colleague or someone they know. They've got strong networks and they're known for their high performance. So
Yep.
they're not applying for the jobs that you place. You're at best, you might get a few A players, but more often it's going to be Bs and Cs that are applying for jobs. And that's why it's really important to understand the context of this downturn and where a lot of people have been stood down and why that means that now is an opportunity that we very rarely see in the market to begin to think, how can I get some A players? We know that the competition are going to be wanting to keep those A players as much as possible. They're going to be the last people they're going to want to let go, but things are shaky and there could be some opportunities.
There is. So for sure, there's people that you will be able to, and that might be applying now more than any other time, I would think. And there's also important to understand, like, sometimes someone is in a role at one company and they're not an A player there, but then they might be at the role you're doing. And that's what we have people on our team that help to screen people. And we use that top grading methodology we're talking about from Brad Smart, which is brilliant
Yeah.
methodology to screen and make sure there's fit. But different when they change to a different type of role or a different culture, sometimes they can become an A player when they weren't, or vice versa, which is our job to understand. But
And
the other,
that's one of the things that we say often to CEOs is, um, if you have a person who isn't an A player in your organization, there's a very good chance they could be an A player somewhere else. And your inaction might be stopping them
correct.
to do that, to actually be a great performer in another organization.
Yeah, totally. Like, many times we've seen, or even a different job in your organization, different than what they
Yeah.
think. And
Mm.
sometimes it's different. I have a very good friend of mine, awesome guy, and he was trying to be very successful in the industry that he was in, and it was painful for him. And he wasn't a high performer. And he got a job doing a very technical role in the government, in our federal government. He's an A plus in that
Yeah.
role. It's a different environment, but it suits his skill set and his abilities notably better. So that's why it's easier for us to make decisions on letting people move on to their next careers when they don't fit, because I know everyone's an A somewhere in the right kind of role.
Yeah.
But then there are these special people that are so wired to succeed and so driven that they're magical in our businesses. So the piece of this where I think the biggest opportunity is, um, aside from the ones in the market, is the ones that are still there.
Yeah.
And somehow, because generally in the past, we always say, make a list of all the A players, keep in touch, keep waiting basically for their company to screw up,
Yeah.
right? They get shorted on a bonus. They get moved to a division where they can't stand their boss. or something happens where they lose faith. By the way, my favorite book on understanding retention of employees is called The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave. It's based on 20,000 exit interviews. It's a must. All of our clients read it.
Say
Because
that
by the
again.
way, it's a
The
must. All of
7.
our clients read it. The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave.
Okay.
It's Lee Branham, I believe is the name. I haven't met him, but it is a phenomenal book. And what you know is money ain't on the list. Money
Yeah.
is number 8. It's all this other stuff. So we look for the other stuff to become issues, and then you got an opportunity to hire them. So right now, one of the 7 hidden reasons is people lose trust and confidence in senior leaders.
Yeah.
Another one is lack of work-life balance. Another one is lack of opportunities to grow. Another one is feedback and coaching. Lack of, obviously. So right now, there's some companies that people will lose faith in. I mean, the decisions I hear people making. I was on the call today, and one of the CEOs we work with was talking about call it a friend of a friend. Was talking about trying to take people down to a 4-day work week. Now, that's a strategy that's called demotivate everybody instead of letting go the few that you should have let go. And these things will be happening left, right. I'm not saying maybe that's the right thing for your company. Hey, if you got a better idea, please do it. Maybe that's the right thing. But the point of it is there's people who are going to get demotivated and frustrated no matter what it is. And because they don't feel good about how your company handled it or something, or their company, they'll be open to new opportunities.
Well, like you said before, A players are looking to move at a point when their company screws up, and there's a lot of screw ups that are happening now, and therefore it's the right time to try to think, where are the A players? So for someone who's on board with what we're saying, let's say there's just one person out there.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that they can do? So how do they identify these A players? What's the actual tangible thing they can do if it's true that a lot of A players don't apply for jobs?
Yeah, and some will. Let's not, like, there will be people who have been let go that are A's. So we work so much on this, Brad, because we believe through winning through your team. That is the approach we always take. I know you do very similar work. And, one of the things we do is get people to make a list. So one of the CEOs that we work with out of Chicago, his name's Andrew Lamoris from a company called Medix. When we were working on this in his company, in the middle of a 2-day strategy session, we were down in Florida, I believe, of all places. He's like, hey guys, enough talking about it. Grab your laptop, open up LinkedIn. Everyone's making a prospect list of 10 people you know from your life that are A players. And then you're going to ping them, because they could be anywhere in their company and at some point. And so then they just keep working that prospect list. So just, who do you know that's awesome, even if you think they might never work with you? And it's like building a sales prospect list, except for it's for talent. And it's like, hey, in the old days, we'd say, hey, you want to go for a coffee?
You want to go for a Zoom?
Yeah, you want to go for a Zoom? And they'll say, no, not another Zoom, please. What have you seen, Brad? Like, that's the number one strategy I've seen. Make a list. Hey, how you doing? Let's grab a coffee, grab lunch, whatever it happens to be. But I know you've got your own thoughts on what that could be as well.
No, look, it's very similar. You mentioned you wrote a book. I happen to have written a book too called Made to Thrive. In that, I talk about the specific practices that you can do for this reason, and that is identify the key roles in the organization, because there might be a role, it's really, really easy to get people, and A players are a dime a dozen, or A players don't necessarily matter. So identify the key roles, the most important roles. And then once you've done that, build a list and then maintain the contact with those people. Is it a bit late now? Well, perhaps this is more in the succession planning style,
but better late than never. Better late than never, though.
Exactly. Better late than never. So, now identify, number one, the key roles. Number two, move into LinkedIn, or I also say talk to suppliers, because your suppliers are dealing with you and they're dealing with your competition. And customers as well. So who is the best person that you've seen or heard about is the simple kind of question. as well as the LinkedIn stuff that you mentioned. And then really just looking around, and maybe there's someone who's got a blog, or there's something in the broader, I guess, web in your industry that you can see. But the opportunity, stepping back, the opportunity now is to say, well, this is the amount of payroll that our organization pays. Are
Yep.
we getting the best value for that? And if so, are we able to upgrade that? If not, so let's say the bottom third of our workforce, are we getting the best value? And I realize that there's the PPP in America, and there's JobKeeper in Australia. There's a lot of government programs that want you to keep your existing workforce, but the rate of change, as we said at the beginning of the call, from previous or traditional style models to a much more leaner and faster and more efficient model, or a higher performing model. Like, I'm seeing that pattern of behavior through a lot of companies, and that therefore means, are you getting the best value? Do you have the right percentage of A players in your payroll?
Yeah, there's a phrase that, that I've heard is, it's, who do you want to go to war with? It's going to be a bit of a battleground over this next period, because there's going to be a lot of change, and, being a rougher economy for a period of time. Who do you want beside you?
Yeah.
And if the people beside you are making you go, yes, with absolute confidence, this is who I want to go to war with, then hey, Bob's your uncle, fill your boots, keep on going. And maybe it's their teams you got to make stronger. But if it's not, if you're not impressed by the people over these last 5-6 weeks, maybe you got some work to do. And you've got an opportunity for the same dollars you're spending to get twice the talent, because A players don't always cost more. That's almost a myth for some people too. You can take that salary that a B player makes, and an A player will do the job for the same salary. Now, there's A players at multiple ranges of salaries, but you can also get a much more effective person in that mediocre, for that mediocre position that's being done right now.
And the only thing in my observation that stops that happening, that stops you going from Bs to As, is leaders' lack of inaction. They don't, it's their headspace. They don't take the action. They don't think this is important enough to take action on. So that's a counter view. That's a view which is perhaps the opposite, because we're saying, look at your payroll and think, how can I hire the best of the best people? But
better bang for your buck. Yeah.
Better bang for your buck. But you and I are both advisors to leadership teams, mid-market companies. Yep. Here's another counter view. Why would someone consider hiring an advisor now? Because it makes sense that we don't want to spend any more money. It makes sense that we don't want to necessarily get any more advice. We just need to hunker down, and we need to make the most of this situation. We need a plan to move forward so that we're able to survive it. And whatever it costs, we've got to stop the spending. Now, this is just a counter view. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I think all of us can always use more help, especially in challenging times. It's when our business booms, right? We've already had, believe it or not, prospects reaching out to us in the last couple of weeks. Talked to another CEO today that's got a bunch of businesses and wants to get some help. And, his thoughts were, hey, we've got this great business. He's third generation, and the business is going really well considering, but he's like, I don't want to screw it up. And I've taken it to, the level where it's close to 100 million. He wants to continue to grow it for generations, and he wants to learn what he needs to learn. He was actually saying, which is a common thing, is that I'm concerned that I might be tapping out and not have the capability to take the business farther, which is common. And we all have perceived limits, but with help, you can grow through those things. So I find that the most successful entrepreneurs I work with are always looking to get the right help. Now, the key is the right help. Like, you don't want one of those weird Aussie guys helping you. You probably want like a good, solid Canadian kid. Actually, no.
You wouldn't, would you?
Nah, no. But I'm joking. I mean, I have lots of great Aussie friends, and that's just joking around. But you want somebody who really adds value, because in many ways, if you have the right advisors, whatever type of advisor, coach being one, they generally help you. They either save you money or make you money. Like they do make your business better, or they make you sleep better at night. If your advisors feel like a drain, well, you probably need to get a different advisor, right? And there's lots of people out there. And I think that's more of what the challenge is. Finding someone excellent that adds value, that's the tricky part. And I think, like, why wouldn't you? And get the help that you know you need, not general help. Don't get an interior designer to redesign your office if you don't care. But if you need help on strategy or strengthening your team, and I know, like you, we will continue to get a lot of inquiries around strengthening teams. We've had some actually fairly large contracts signed in the context of our business around hiring strategies in the last 3 weeks, because people need
Well,
that.
no one goes to the doctor when they're healthy. And that's the
Exactly.
sad reality of advisors' world. People typically come and they say, look, I've got this problem, and they're so deep in the problem. It's gone so far that they need to change. They need help. They need something significant. And they've realized that what got them here won't get them there. They've realized I need
Exactly.
some kind of help.
A-
And
And then when
and
you can get that help, I call them 14Xers, 14X advisors. From someone who's been through that 14 times before, you can shortcut the learning process and the pain. It
yeah,
doesn't guarantee it, but you're tapping into somebody's expertise. And
yeah.
it's almost like getting parenting advice from successful parents, people that can help you. They won't do it all, but there's a number of people who have a hard time getting help. There are
Mm,
people like that out there, and they generally don't grow their businesses a whole bunch. They
yeah.
tap out fairly early compared to their potential. Now, and if you don't think you need help, man, put your head down and go. It's more if you're thinking about it and considering it. I was shocked, by the way, Brad, like with the larger clients that I work with, the ones, half a billion, billion or more,
Yeah.
um, they used advisors like crazy,
Yeah.
way more than I expected when I got into this gig. Way
Mm.
more. I thought, oh, this is a guy, he's built a multi-billion-dollar business. He or she's got it figured out. They don't need help. No, they get lots of it, but they use them very, very smartly and strategically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
For
fascinating. How about you? What's
what
your
they
take on
deliver
it?
for what they deliver the best value on. That's how they're using it.
Yes,
How can we make this person in this niche absolutely nail it? And then they kind of look 360 degrees. So they're trying to get the best. That's my observation in that area as well.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, well, as I said, people don't go to the doctor when they're healthy. If your business is just coast along and everything's fine, then people don't necessarily look for advisors in that environment. Is my experience.
yep.
And what I would say now, what's the most important thing for anyone's business right now? They need the right plan. They need the right approach. They need to be confident in their decisions, and they need to be challenged. They need someone who's going to push back and say, you know what, like, I don't know if that's necessarily the smartest move. And I'm not right, but have
Or
you
have
thought
you
twice about
considered
that?
this alternate view?
Correct.
It's interesting because I was when someone was talking about this, 4-day work week for their team, I said, let me share you a few examples of where I've seen that implemented and what happened. Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't. Of course you did, because you haven't been there before, and that's okay. But when you get to see other perspectives
Yeah.
and not get lost in a ton, and that's why I'm so grateful to have worked with so many companies and so many economies, and have good friends like you in different places that have
Yeah.
different, like, Brad, for those of you who don't, like, Brad and I have very different views. We go to the same place, but it's like we're, two different halves of a brain, and but we need that. I like divergent thinking and challenging thinking because it sharpens ideas, makes better decisions. That's why I love debate.
That's really important, because last week we spoke about disagree and commit, and
Yeah,
it's at the center of what we do. And I don't want
yeah,
to get back into that, but a good advisor in what is potentially the most difficult times in our lifetime for some people,
yes,
um, the right advisor provides alternate views, or makes you think of things that you had never considered before. I like to sort of say to clients that I'm going to throw ideas on the wall and we'll see what sticks. because, that's what we need. We need to have considered as many different perspectives so that we can disagree and commit and agree to land on the right one in the end.
Yes. So there's
Yeah.
a chapter in my book. I don't, wasn't meaning to talk about my book so much this time, but Your Oxygen Mask First. And there's a chapter called Quadruple Your IQ.
Yeah.
And it's all about your advisors in work, for yourself, and in life, and making sure that they are true masters, not amateurs that they're learning with you. They've been there 14 times before in your scenario. And number two, you feel great about working with them. You actually like working with them, like you want to work with them. And this is the time just to make sure you're having the best advice. And if they're not good, you should rate your advisors just like you rate your team. They should be A players. And if they're not, you might want to find somebody else.
It's the same principle. This is the opportunity, perhaps in the market, to build an A team. I want to just quickly mention one thing that you mentioned years ago to me that I've used many, many times, is I'm looking for a relationship with a client, which is hand in glove, and they should be too. And
Yes.
there's a very good chance that it won't be me, but in other words, that I could not be the right fit for the client, and that's okay. What matters the most with an advisor is that what you have is a relationship where it feels like a hand in a glove. It feels like it's a perfect and the right fit. Because I could very easily rub people up the wrong way. And equally, clients could very easily rub me up the wrong way, and probably for you too. But when it works the best, when it's the magic, that's when you get this kind of hand in the glove.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And I'm, it's funny. The CEO I had a chat with today, I hadn't talked to him before. He spoke with Janice on my team. Janice goes, "You're going to love him. He's going to be a great client and a natural fit." I mean, she knows me. She's worked with me almost 20 years. I get on the phone with him. Yep. Actually, it felt like he was already a client.
Yeah.
Like we're on the same page. He's into grow. He's always, he's working on his relationship. He's learning and growing and taking courses to grow himself as a leader. He's humble. He's driven. All the right ingredients are there as I'm talking to him. And I said to him, "Your hand in glove." I said, it's like, but we have to be able to fight like brothers. Yeah. Like we're going to have it out. We're going to challenge each other. We're going to disagree, and then we'll get on with it and support each other. But that's what we're talking about the healthy relationship. And that's why even with him, we had a great chat. We talked about what it would cost, what it would look like. And then I've given him some assignment to go and do a bit of a questionnaire, and then we'll have another conversation. I want to make sure for sure, like the glove fits like a glove.
Yeah.
And then we can just go do great work. But I know we'll end up working together. I could feel it. I know from experience. Or there's some people that are just awkward. And while they're awkward, we are awkward with each other, to be fair. It's not about them. We're just different.
They might be an A player somewhere else or vice versa. It's just getting that right fit. It's exactly the same as the A player in our team. An advisor it's exactly the same principle.
And it's so darn important, so darn important these days. Well, Brad, that was fascinating stuff. And, I'm really enjoying doing these, and I'm hoping those of you that are listening are getting some value out of this, and we'll continue to move along. And so thank you guys for listening. This has been the Growth Whispers podcast with Brad, and I'm Kevin. For the video version, go to YouTube, and it's the Growth Whispers. I think just the Growth Whispers. Yep.
That's it. Just
okay.
the Growth Whispers.
Thank you. And then to reach out to Brad, evolutionpartners.com.au, and to reach Kevin, lawrenceandco.com. Hope you have an awesome week, and we'll be out next week with another episode for you. All the best. Thanks, Brad. That was fun.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.